Have you ever held a newborn and felt that quiet mix of joy and nervousness wash over you? That tiny bundle, all swaddled up, breathing softly in your arms, so fragile, yet so full of life. Whether you're holding your first grandbaby or the fifth, that instinct kicks in. You want to protect them, nurture them, do everything just right. But let's be honest, baby care has changed a lot over the years. What felt normal back when our kids were little, it might not be recommended today. Now, that doesn't mean you were doing anything wrong back then. Far from it. You raised strong, healthy kids, didn't you? But over the years, science, medical advice, and even parenting styles have shifted. What we once thought was safe might now be something to avoid. And that's what today's video is all about. We're going to talk about 5 of the most common newborn care mistakes, simple things that many well-meaning caregivers still do, and how to steer clear of them. Not to scare you, but to empower you. Whether you're helping out your children with their new baby, or you've taken on caregiving duties yourself, this is about giving that little one the safest, most loving start you can. So, let's settle in with a nice cup of tea or coffee and have a heart-to-heart. These are things every grandparent should know. You might nod along at a few, and you might be surprised at others. But I promise, by the end, you'll feel more confident and even more connected to that precious little one. Let's start with something that catches a lot of people off guard: how babies sleep. Back when many of us were raising our own kids, it wasn't unusual to lay a baby on their tummy to sleep. Some of us were even told it helped with digestion or made them sleep longer. But today, that's considered one of the most dangerous things you can do. Medical experts now say the safest sleep position for a baby is always on their back, every nap, every night, no exceptions. It might feel strange at first, especially if you're worried about the baby spitting up. But research has shown that placing babies on their backs significantly lowers the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. It's one of those things that's hard to imagine until you hear the stories. And let's be real, we'd all rather be overly cautious than live with the what-ifs, right? So if you're helping with bedtime, changing diapers in the middle of the night, or giving the parents a much-needed break, always remember, back to sleep. No stuffed animals, no loose blankets, no pillows, just a firm mattress and a fitted sheet. Think of it as creating a little safety bubble just for them. Now, speaking of safety, let's talk about how we hold and carry our grandbabies. There's something magical about cradling a newborn against your chest. That warmth, that steady little heartbeat, it brings back so many memories. But here's something that's often overlooked: supporting the baby's neck and head. Newborns don't have strong neck muscles yet, and their heads are surprisingly heavy for their tiny bodies. If the head flops backward or to the side too quickly, it can cause strain, or worse, injury. I've seen folks lift a baby with one arm under their bottom and forget the head's just hanging there. It's not out of neglect, it's just easy to forget in the moment, especially if you're used to holding toddlers or older kids. So every time you pick up a newborn, think slow and steady. One hand behind the head and neck, one under the bottom. When you're handing the baby to someone else, pause and make sure they've got that same support. If someone's a bit unsure or holding the baby awkwardly, it's okay to gently guide them. You can say something like, "Here, let me help you, just keep your hand under their neck like this." It's not about correcting anyone, it's about keeping that baby safe. Now here's one more thing that tends to surprise a lot of grandparents: feeding practices. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, "Oh, just a little water won't hurt," or "They look thirsty, maybe give them a bottle of water." But for newborns, especially under 6 months old, giving water can actually be dangerous. Their tiny kidneys aren't ready to process extra fluids, and even small amounts of water can mess with the balance of sodium in their bodies. That can lead to a condition called water intoxication, which sounds like a made-up thing, but it's very real and very serious. Newborns get all the hydration they need from breast milk or formula. That's it. No extra water, no juice, no sips from grandma's glass. It might feel harmless, especially on a hot day, but their little systems just aren't built for it yet. So if you're bottle feeding or even just helping out during mealtimes, stick to what the parents are doing. It's always a good idea to check in with them before trying anything new, even if it seems small. And if they're breastfeeding, offering water might make them feel like they're not doing enough, which isn't true at all. Breast milk has everything a baby needs, including hydration. The same goes for starting solids. I know, it's tempting. You see those little eyes watching you eat, their mouths moving like they're ready to try something too. And back in the day, it wasn't unusual to give babies cereal in their bottles at just a few weeks old. But these days, doctors recommend waiting until about 6 months before introducing any solid foods. Their digestive systems just aren't ready before then. Every generation does things a little differently, and that's okay. But as grandparents, we get the gift of blending old school love with new school knowledge. It's not about doing it perfectly, it's about staying open, staying curious, and staying committed to doing what's best for that little one's future. And really, isn't that what love looks like? Willing to learn something new, even after all these years, just to give your grandbaby the safest start possible? Now that we've talked about sleep positions, safe handling, and the do's and don'ts around feeding, let's continue with some other important things every caregiver should know when it comes to keeping newborns safe and healthy. Another area where well-meaning hands sometimes miss the mark is in how we dress our grandbabies. It might sound simple, just bundle them up and keep them warm, right? But here's the thing, newborns are much more sensitive to overheating than they are to being a little chilly. And if you've ever watched a brand new parent fumble through layering socks and hats and blankets, you know it's something we all tend to overthink. It's natural, we want to protect them from the cold, especially if we grew up in a time when catching a chill was a real concern. But today, doctors are telling us that overheating can be more dangerous than a cool draft. Babies can't regulate their temperature like we can, and too much warmth, especially when they're sleeping, can increase the risk of SIDS. So how do you know what's just right? A good rule of thumb is this: dress the baby in one more layer than what you'd feel comfortable wearing in that room. Not 3 layers. Not heavy quilts. Just a soft onesie, maybe a light swaddle or sleep sack if it's chilly. And when in doubt, feel the back of their neck or their chest, not their hands or feet. Babies often have cold hands and feet, and it doesn't mean they're cold overall. I remember visiting my daughter when she brought her baby home for the first time. The house felt cooler than I liked, and my first instinct was to grab a little sweater and hat for the baby. She gently said, "Mom, the pediatrician told us not to overdress her." And I'll admit, my first reaction was to feel a little defensive. But then I paused, listened, and realized that this wasn't about me being wrong. It was about learning something new for the sake of that little one. It's humbling, isn't it? This idea that even after raising our own families, there's still more to learn. But it's also kind of beautiful. Because it means we're still growing. Still showing up with open hearts. And that, in itself, is one of the greatest gifts we can give our grandchildren. Now let's talk about something that may not come up every day, but when it does, it matters more than you'd think: car seat safety. I know. Those big plastic seats with all the buckles and straps can look more like rocket equipment than baby gear. But the truth is, car seats save lives. They've come a long way from the days when we used to just hold the baby on our lap or strap a little booster seat in the back. Today's car seats are built with strict safety standards, and that means they need to be installed and used properly every single time. The straps need to be snug. The chest clip should be at armpit level. And babies should always ride rear-facing until at least 2 years old, if not longer. It might feel like overkill, but consider this: in the event of a crash, a properly used car seat can reduce the risk of injury or death by over 70%. That's not something we can ignore. Now, if you're driving your grandbaby somewhere, even just to the store, make sure you've had someone check that the car seat is installed correctly. Many fire stations and community centers offer free safety checks, and honestly, it's worth the peace of mind. And if you're tempted to loosen the straps because the baby looks uncomfortable, just remember that snug is safe. They're not supposed to be able to wiggle around in there. Also, one little tip: don't leave babies in their car seats once you're inside the house. Those seats are made for travel, not for sleeping or lounging. If a baby falls asleep during the ride, it's best to gently transfer them to a flat, safe sleeping surface when you get home. I know it's tempting to let them stay put when they're peacefully snoozing, but again, it's about long-term safety, not short-term convenience. All of these things, safe sleep, feeding, dressing, riding in the car, they might sound like small details. But when it comes to newborns, the little things add up in a big way. And as someone who's lived through many decades of change, you know better than most how important it is to pay attention to the details. You've seen how fast time moves, how fragile life can be, and how deeply love can drive us to do better. That love you have for your grandchildren? That's your superpower. It's what will help you take in this new knowledge, not as criticism, but as care. Not as correction, but as collaboration. Because what matters most is that the baby is safe, healthy, and surrounded by people who are willing to keep learning, keep loving, and keep showing up. And you're already doing that, just by being here. Now that we've gone over dressing safely and how to handle car seats the right way, there's one more important mistake that even the most experienced hands can make when caring for a newborn. It has to do with what we put on their delicate skin, and what we need to leave off. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked areas of newborn care, their skin. Newborns have skin that's softer and more delicate than we sometimes realize. It's tempting to want to keep them perfectly clean, perfectly moisturized, and smelling like a little flower. I remember when my first grandson came home, I had this beautiful lotion I used to put on my babies. Lavender scent, so soft, made them smell just like angels. I offered to use it during diaper changes, and my daughter said, "Oh no, we're avoiding fragrances for now." At first, I didn't get it. What harm could a little lotion do, especially one that made them smell so sweet? But when she explained, it made sense. A newborn's skin barrier isn't fully developed yet, and it's more vulnerable to irritation, rashes, even allergic reactions. What might seem harmless, perfumed wipes, scented baby powders, even some soaps, can actually do more harm than good. Less is more when it comes to baby skincare. Lukewarm water for baths. Fragrance-free, gentle cleansers. No powders, no strong soaps, no need for daily scrubbing. Their skin is doing exactly what it needs to do, and sometimes our well-intentioned efforts to help can throw it off balance. If you're doing diaper changes or bath time duty, try to stick with what the parents have chosen. And if you ever notice redness, dryness, or peeling, don't panic, it's pretty common. Most babies shed a bit of skin in the early days. But if something doesn't look right, don't try to treat it with home remedies or old creams from the back of the bathroom cabinet. A quick call to the pediatrician is always the best route. It can feel odd, right? Being told not to do something that we used to do without thinking. But this stage of life, this grandparenting season, it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. And being willing to say, I may not know all the new rules, but I sure do care enough to learn them. It's such a gift to have a second chance, not to raise our own babies again, but to support the next generation with wisdom and heart. Our job now isn't to take over. It's to walk beside. To be that steady presence that says, you're doing great, even when the parents are unsure. And at the same time, to be open when they say, we're trying something a little different. There's a kind of beauty in that balance. You bring the experience, the calm, the stories, the songs. They bring the latest science, the updated advice, the new baby gear we're still trying to figure out. Together, it creates this loving circle around the baby, past, present, and future, all wrapped into one. Now, before we wrap up, let's gently go over the heart of what we've talked about today, not in a checklist kind of way, but just as a reminder of how each small decision helps shape a newborn's world. We talked about sleep, always placing the baby on their back in a safe, empty crib. It might feel strange if you were used to tummy sleeping, but it's one of the most effective ways to protect them during those first fragile months. We touched on how we hold and carry them, with extra care for their neck and head, always slow, always steady. These little ones can't yet control their movements, so every hand that holds them needs to offer that security. Then we moved into feeding, how even a sip of water can be too much for newborns, and why sticking with breast milk or formula is essential until they're ready for solids. Even when they seem curious, their bodies might not be. We talked about clothing, not overbundling, watching for signs of overheating, and understanding that being a little cool is usually safer than being too warm. And of course, we spent some time on car seat safety. Those buckles, those straps, they matter more than we might think. And checking them, using them properly, can literally be life-saving. And just now, we explored skincare. Being gentle, using fewer products, and knowing that a baby's skin doesn't need to be masked in powders or perfumes. Just clean, soft, and protected. These aren't just rules. They're acts of love. Every diaper change, every bath, every cuddle, they're opportunities to give that baby safety, comfort, and connection. And that's where you come in. You might not be changing every diaper or doing every midnight feeding, but your presence matters. Your support matters. Your willingness to learn, even if it's different from what you did 30 or 40 years ago, means the world to that baby's parents. It shows them they're not alone. That they've got someone in their corner, someone who loves their child just as much as they do. And maybe, just maybe, as we care for these tiny humans, we get something unexpected in return. A sense of purpose. A chance to heal old parenting wounds. A little reminder that life keeps moving forward, and we still have so much to offer. So, if you've ever wondered, am I doing this right, or felt unsure about helping with a newborn, let me reassure you, you are already doing something incredible. Just by showing up. Just by being willing to listen. Just by loving. And if this video helped you feel even a little more prepared, a little more confident, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts down in the comments, your stories, your questions, your wisdom. You might be surprised at how many people can relate. Be sure to like the video if it brought you value, and don't forget to subscribe for more gentle, helpful tips made just for you. There's a whole community here of grandparents, caregivers, and wise hearts who are walking this same journey. You're not alone. Here's to all the babies we've rocked, all the ones we're still holding, and all the love that never runs out, no matter how many years go by. You've got this. And you're doing beautifully.